Three, two, one, go. So what are you hoping to see from this third match?
I'm obviously hoping to see some frankly absurd luck like we got yesterday. I really want to see somebody get like a double boot Swiftfoot out of Creeper Woods again. I thought that was just the the most like adrenaline fueled thing, and Yon was just going nuts on co-commentary yesterday with them getting that luck. So yeah, really interested to see where some of the RNG takes us. I want to see a close contest between these two runners either way because yeah, despite the fact that Imek obviously messed up the Creeper Woods exit last time around, he made pretty good time just getting to high blocks. So we'll see how this all works out.
Now, this could be very interesting if they both get really good gear or if they both get really bad gear. It'd be fun to see the contrast where if one round they both got double boot, swift foot, everything they possibly need, and then the run right after, they just had level one gear going into Fiery Forge.
Yeah, we behind the scenes, the tournament organizers have suggested that one of the runs should just be like a meme seed. Like we had the set seed run at the end of yesterday's stream, where obviously the seeds had been chosen, so it was a very very fast run through each area. But then the alternative was throwing out some of the worst possible seeds, so the slowest times through each level, and yeah, just a really really awful run for both of them. But yeah, we'll see how that all shakes out in the next couple of matches. It could be all over fairly soon. We just got to have two runs on the trot from one of these two, and it could be game over.
That's true. So Yam opting to let some of the creepers explode, which is it does allow this to be beaten a lot faster. However, creepers do give you a decent amount of experience, and it doesn't take a whole ton of time to kill them. So that's a very interesting point that I hadn't noticed until recently, actually.
Yeah, Yon picking up a TNT though. There is an area where you can group a bunch of enemies together and just TNT them for some easy experience later. Also finding a bow in a side chest there. Occasionally you'll find those red and gold chests throughout the map here. They're the same ones that the pigs carry on their backs, although I think the pigs have a different chance for different sorts of gear. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, either way, if a runner sees one of those chests, it's a chance for slightly better gear, so they're still going to go for it just for the levels alone.
So I'm at getting wolf armor where Yam got a level 1 bow. And, like I mentioned earlier, this wolf armor will allow him to one-shot any of the illagers, or any of the base level illagers, which gives him an advantage. Now, this seed, this is a really, really rare formation that you don't see very often. To me, it's one of my favorites with the kind of like ravine down in the middle. But it's not one of my favorites if I'm trying to beat the seed fast. I just think it looks cool. It's a pretty slow one.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually seen that one before where there's like a campfire in the background. I didn't recognize that at all. And, I obviously haven't played nearly as much as some of these runners have, and a lot of the time runs will just reset Creeper Woods over and over again, so you've probably seen it all at this point. But yeah, having played this game casually, I don't spend much time at Creeper Woods. I don't think I've seen everything there is to see.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Creeper Woods is it's a level for sure. So what do you find the most fun to play? Imek not really getting much from the pig.
Yeah,
Uh,
Yon neither. Most of the time, like, I kind of challenged myself early on in this game once I'd beaten it casually to play without weapons, because I discovered that you can remove the bow and sword. You can even salvage them once you've beaten the tutorial level. And so I tried to go through the entire base game without using any weapons and with limited enchants. I ended up relying on the burning enchantment a lot that creates a fire aura around you and damaging enemies a lot that way. But yeah, that was that was probably the opposite of a speed run. Since then, though, I've kind of gone melee only, and I tend to use the gauntlet weapons a lot because I like just playing basically a monk playthrough and fist fighting my way through the levels.
it's very fun. We had a just melee only category that we ran kind of in Discord once, and it was pretty fun. It was a lot easier than the bow only category because
Yeah.
there was a bow only category, and all the time we would accidentally shoot an enemy and have to reset.
There's also a gearless category, I believe, which is basically just the starting gear that you begin the game with has to be your gear for the rest of the run. I think I've seen Birdie try that a couple of times.
So Yam getting a boot, and did he buy something from the vendor? I wasn't able to quite catch that.
I think he might have done. If he didn't, he reserved something, but we'll... Oh, I think he bought the Spelunker armor, because he couldn't have got that from anywhere else.
Alright. If that has... Oh, it probably doesn't have Swiftfoot on it, otherwise he would have already used it. So interesting opting to buy that armor.
I think he was just armorless going out of Creeper Woods, and considering the luck he's been having, Imek getting a boot of swiftness as well. Okay, looks like we have a bit of a race going on here. Not seeing any Swiftfoot armor, it looks like, from the vendor, but picking up a few emeralds before he leaves. Yeah, I think he may have just been trying to get armor for power level kind of early, because he's ended the last couple of runs with really unlucky, like, poor levels on armor, and as a result he hasn't had much HP and has taken a couple of deaths later. So I expect by buying the armor he's just looking to avoid that.
That's a very reasonable thing to do. So let's see, are they getting the good formation for the beacons? I can't exactly... No, they didn't. It's unfortunate. They're missing out on that red chest at the end, golden chest.
Yeah, there is two different formations these beacons can spawn in. This is the slower pattern of the two. The way you can tell that it's the other pattern, I think, is because there's like a hole in the ground as you come into that area, and there's like a kind of stone archway formation that makes it kind of obvious which pattern of terrain you're walking into. And yeah, this is the other one.
There is actually a golden chest off to the side on that little island that you see by Yam, but if you go and get it, there's no way of getting back without kind of starting back at the beginning of like the last checkpoint.
You have to sacrifice your position for drops that aren't really gonna be worth it unless you get a really lucky armor or something.
Right, so no one really opts to do that in most categories, I would say. There are a lot of different categories that we've run in the past, but any percent, as usual, in games kind of takes a cake with the prestige, and these two runners have both been, among the world record holders for quite a long time. Yam's been around since the beginning, and Imek kind of came in a little bit later, but he's been around for long enough that it feels like he's been here the whole time.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting the changes that have happened in the any percent category and it having to be split now because of the levels early glitch that was found. So now if you go to, if you do exclamation point leaderboard in the chat, which I think a couple of people have already, you can go to the speedrun.com leaderboard for Minecraft Dungeons and you'll see it split into a variety of main categories. What you're looking at is a no levels early run, so runners aren't able to use the level skip and have to complete the levels that are required to progress through the game. You'll notice Cacti Canyon has to be played before Desert Temple will even appear as a location on the map. Same with Redstone Mines unlocking Fiery Forge, and both of those later levels have to be completed before High Block Hall. In the level skip version of the run, though, you can actually warp to those levels early, and the only reason to go to any of the levels before that is to acquire the gear that you'll need to complete the levels slightly faster and one-shot bosses and stuff. So a lot of the time you'll see the split between them being a matter of like tens of minutes. I think it's like a 14-minute run is the fastest one for levels early right now, and the most recent no levels early run was Imek with 27 minutes. So
right.
Yeah, a lot of difference between those two categories. So
the way that level skip works actually makes it so we do have to play Fiery Forge and Desert Temple, which is nice because Desert Temple does give us the Torment. That being said, during level skip, we've also figured out a way to change the difficulty to 1 on levels where, normally you can't play on difficulty 1. So you don't even, it's not like you need really great gear like you would if you were just playing it otherwise, which honestly makes level skip so much faster than it would have been.
Yeah, the game basically enforces a mandatory, like a minimum difficulty throughout the game if you're playing it normally. So by the time you reach High Block Hall, I think it has to be level 4, and Obsidian Pinnacle is usually level 5, or at least it was when I started. I think Obsidian Pinnacle has been made easier, but I'm not certain if that shows in the difficulty level you can select or if it's just like nerfs to various enemies and so forth.
It did change it so you can play on difficulty 4, and difficulty
Right,
4
okay.
is the default for Obsidian Pinnacle, which, you know, bittersweet. I miss the good old days where I would actually die on the Heart of Ender.
Yeah, yeah. The laser beams back in the day used to be a lot more punishing, but even so, it's still not an easy fight unless our runners get the setup they need.
That's true. That is very true. And for newer players who may not be as familiar with the game, it can still be a pretty difficult level to deal with and handle. So Imek has a trick bow here, and he's going to be able to take out the ambush pretty fast with that.
Yeah, the trick bow I think allows you to. It's not. It doesn't fire 2 shots, but it basically has the arrow ricochet between enemies, right?
Right.
There's a twin bow that I think allows you to fire 2 shots at once.
Right. And the twin bow gives you, I forget what the exact. Oh, are you talking? Are you talking about the twin bow that's like later on in the game after the default difficulty? Because like I'm not super familiar with anything outside of any percent.
I think we've seen a twin bow in these default runs. It might be a unique.
The-
I'm not sure what I'm thinking of.
Okay, so if it's the unique, then it has the enchantment bonus shot, which isn't a terribly great enchantment. Like it's good if you have torment, because it'll hit 2 enemies instead of 1, and your dynamo will, you know. Oh,
That is
well,
a wolf
Yom-
armor with Swiftfoot for Imek.
yeah, Imek's gonna be happy about that one. Level 10 armor this early on with Swiftfoot. And Yam is going to be happy he has those 2 horns to get through this section with all these necromancers and all these enemies in the key area.
Yeah, this key area can be more or less vacant, or as you're seeing right now, it can be very, very crowded. And Yom using the Windhorn here to push enemies back still loses the key once, but goes back to retrieve it. The Windhorn is really useful because it pushes enemies back, but also slows them down for a short period of time, which can make all the difference when you're surrounded by them in close quarters like that.
Fortunately for Imek, he still has a horn too, so he might be able to get through that section without too much difficulty.
We finally get to see an obsidian chest on this run as well. Yom has found the secret room where the obsidian chest is. A soul knife. Didn't see the level on it, but it looks pretty good. He's equipped it already, and some shock powder there, which might be worth looking at later, but I think for most of this, he's going to rely on the Windhorns.
Probably a pretty high level, because you got a level 14 glaive and he opted not to take it. I think I would probably take up to a level 9 soul knife. Oh, he has a level 8,
Yeah,
I think.
it's a level 9, I think.
Oh, it
I
was
saw.
level 9?
He's doing 55 damage to that pig, which means I think he's going to be able to one-shot a decent chunk of the enemies in here. And yeah, if he's fighting Nameless One with that, it's still going to be a relatively quick fight.
True. And with double horn, he'll be able to stall the Nameless One out pretty well and not have to worry about it. So Imek with the shock powder and with the glaive and opting for the glaive over the level 9 cutlass, or level 12 cutlass. Both of them have pretty high power level gear at this point. This is a little different from what we've been seeing in their runs.
Yeah, I think once again Yom is going to be a lot happier with that, having had to stick with level 1 or level 5 armor up until this point. He is enjoying the fact that his Grim armor gives him a little bit more health.
Yeah, and if he's able to pull a Torment Quiver, he can equip that to get some souls really quickly if he needs to before the boss fight. So let's see. Their timers, Imek's not that far behind right now. He's like 40 seconds behind on the timer, so they're probably pretty even as far as positioning goes at the moment.
We'll see what time Yom clears this ambush, and we'll use that to time against Imek as well. Because Imek just coming up to the ambush now, it looks like.
Let's see. Oh, Imek, I just noticed, has a Torment Quiver.
Oh, okay, he must have got that from one of the pigs earlier in the level. I missed that.
I missed that too. That is game changing. That's why you see him equipping that Grim armor right there. Oh, please tell me that he didn't. Please tell me that Dynamo's not on the trick bow, and that Dynamo's on that longbow, because Torment Quiver just does not work with trick bows. It hits like one enemy, and like normally you know how Torment Quiver kind of goes through a bunch of enemies, right?
Yeah.
So with the trick bow, it kind of just like hits one enemy one time and just dies. So with that Shadow Brew, he was able to take out that Necromancer in one shot. Yams with Accelerate on the Nameless one should be able to do this pretty quickly.
Yeah, you'll notice how he charges up the bow shot basically by firing a bunch before the Nameless one even spawns. He has like 700 arrows right now, so he's really not worried about wasting them, just worried about doing damage as fast as possible. Imek is obviously going to be able to do a lot more damage a lot faster thanks to the Torment Quiver, but yeah, they look like they're on pretty even pace. Yom taking out Nameless one without much fuss. Picking up a glaive as the boss drop, which is unfortunate, but still has, once again, a chance to get Torment Quiver from end of level or from the vendor.
That's true. If he doesn't, then that gives Imek a real advantage here, because they will be finishing this about the same time. Okay, so maybe that short bow has dynamo on it.
The necromancer's staff is
And Imek should be able
Once again,
to...
Arch Illager is thwarted.
Oh!
Yep.
With some Boots of Swiftness dropping?
Interesting.
Imek's got a fast run going here.
Yes, Yom leaving, I think... Oh, Yom getting a boot of swiftness as well from the end of level, so lacking the Torment right now, but he's looking at the vendor, wondering if he needs to restock, and gets a Flame Quiver, which he decides to skip over as well. Buys a Thief Armor, looks like he's got Speed Synergy on that, taking that to Redstone Mines.
And Speed Synergy with Double Boots Horn is not that bad, because he can use those artifacts so fast over and over again.
Yes, Imek leaving Desert Temple about 10 seconds faster, thanks to having slightly better speed gear and also the instant kill. So looking to close the gap on Yom here.
And he picks up the Torment Quiver that Yom wishes he had. But because the runners don't know whether the other runner got Torment Quiver or not, they both just have to act like they can still win and just keep on going. Because anything really could happen. If we see Imek miss the hull skip another 5 times, well, you know, that could take a lot of time.
Yeah. We're potentially going to see a much tighter race at this stage, though. Yom was out in front for most of the last match, but it looks like Imek actually, gonna put some distance between himself and Yom at this stage, although Yom still has the second boot and Speed Synergy, as you can see on the left-hand side of Yom's screen there, able to activate pretty much constantly, thanks to the fact that he's got both the boots and the Windhorn, which he can use liberally in these tunnels here to clear the enemies.
Imek still does have the Swiftfoot with the double boots, which is still going to be fast and Speed Synergy with what he has. But Yom can keep up at least, at the very least.
Yeah, you only have to look at Imek's screen and see how much faster than Yom he's moving. Definitely dodges that redstone minecart. That was a little bit of a dangerous situation there. Avoided very easily.
But Yom's able to get through this villager section without much issue. And as we kind of talked about in the last run, by saving these villagers, he's able to unlock an extra slot in the vendor's, I guess, shop. And that could give him an extra shot at Torment right there. But he does have an Accelerate short bow, which still takes out bosses pretty quickly. Not as fast, obviously, as Torment Quiver, but
still makes that redstone golem fight look pretty trivial for anybody who's had a hard time with that boss casually. But once again, Imek leaving the level basically on pace with Yom in real time right now, but we're looking at about a 38-second lead for Imek at this point. So if Yom doesn't get that Torment Quiver, he's going to be lagging behind pretty quickly, especially with Fiery Forge up next.
Imek has now Swiftfoot 2 on his armor, which will help him move through the levels pretty quickly.
Considering getting a mercenary armor from that vendor, but deciding against it in the end. I think the sheer speed Imek has right now is going to carry him through most of this without worrying about the armor status.
That's probably true, but the mercenary armor with the 30% damage reduction on top of having Swiftfoot makes it something that was definitely, a real force to be considered. Even if it was a lower level than his current armor. Oh, they're pretty much in the same place, and that's going to make Imek have this advantage.
Yeah, both players going for that chest at the beginning of the level there, just like a quick hidden chest. Often drops mercenary armor or reinforced mail, sometimes the unique versions of each, but potentially, yeah, that will help you through this level if some of the harder hitting enemies seem to get to you a little easily.
So Imek's also a full level higher, which should allow him to be able to spend his enchantment points on something useful, which he's been doing, you know, with his Dynamo and his Swift-footed too. A lot of the time, it's been an interesting progression. At the beginning of the game, you would see people, or at the beginning, like around launch, you'd see the speedrunners finishing the game like at level 13, 14, 15, which eventually got brought down to like 10 pretty quickly. And now that you see people finishing at like 6 or 7 sometimes.
Yom there picking up a TNT and opting to throw it pretty much immediately, I think because he's going to favor using his bow, and when you pick up a TNT in this game, you have to throw it with the same control you use to fire your bow, so you have to get rid of that stuff before you can actually use any ranged combat maneuvers, which even though Yom doesn't have the Torment at this point, I think he's favoring having the bow with Accelerate.
If that one core hadn't been all the way over to the side, these would be really good cores.
Yeah, they're all sort of clustered together in one place, and the runners will be able to see that on the overlay map and be able to plan their route according to that.
So Yom opting to kill the pig. I'm not exactly sure what he was hoping for there, but it probably wasn't a power bow and a flaming quiver.
Yeah, I think he might still be looking for opportunities for better armor at this stage, but you can still do the infinite trick with Flaming Quiver, but it's only going to be able to deal like a little bit of extra fire damage to enemies, whereas a Firework even would be better because it does area of effect, and a lot of the ambushes they're going to have to clear in high block halls have a lot of enemies clustered closer together. The Torment is obviously the one that you want to go for because it's just OP even casually, but obviously in the context of this run gets kind of blown out of proportion.
True. Honestly, it's probably better off if you're using a scatter crossbow to not even shoot or not even do the infinite on flaming arrows, because when you do the infinite, it reduces the number of arrows shot by at least 1. So if he's shooting 2 arrows instead of 3, and he's getting, you know, a flaming quiver on 2 arrows instead of just shooting his 3 arrows, and it almost might not even be worth it. But you see right here. Oh, go for it.
Sorry, two very different approaches to this boss. Obviously, Imek dealing with it pretty much instantaneously, whereas Yom is going to have to take his time. Still does a pretty decent damage with the Accelerate, but yeah, nowhere near as fast as Imek, and Imek in a very clear lead at this stage, both on screen and as far as the timers go.
Yom is getting some very good flaming quiver luck, at least. Well, that's probably not what he's hoping for. He will have to deal with it, I guess.
The fiery forge is
Let's see.
destroyed.
What is Imek doing? Okay, he's just looking at his inventory.
Yeah, we'll see if Yom gets a chance for Torment Quiver from the vendor here. Now the third slot should be unlocked. Imek already heading to high block halls, has basically everything he needs for the rest of the run, but could potentially get something better. Yom finds another boot of swiftness in the vendor, going for triple boot and selling the spicy cutlass so he can afford it, it looks like.
Yeah. It's probably pretty expensive if he has to salvage this much for it, but a level 17
300. 300 is not cheap at this stage, with the runners not really being able to grind for emeralds very much, but that is definitely the speed he needs. Unfortunately, still doesn't have anything he can work with as far as Torment Dynamo, but he is definitely looking at a faster run through, although he's still only working with speed synergy, whereas I think Imek's Swift-footed is still going to make him a touch faster.
Right. So one interesting thing for any casual players who may have played this game sometimes, you can, at the very beginning with a new character, you can farm for emeralds by going into camp, salvaging your gear, going into Creeper Woods, salvaging your gear, going back into camp, and every time you do it and you don't have a sword or a bow or something like that, it'll put it back in your inventory. And if you can do it really quickly, you can get takes about 300 emeralds per 1 minute of in-game time, so not including like load times. But unfortunately, they're getting ambush here. Imek opting for the double Torment Quiver, probably to get souls faster.
Yeah, it's not like that's going to give him a great deal of advantage. Yeah, I think it's interesting that the game insists that you have a sword and a bow at all times, basically. Like, if you don't have one of those weapons in your inventory, you can unequip them, and if they're still in your inventory, the game won't give you a new one, but if you just salvage them for emeralds, then the game insists that you have to have weapons when you start each fresh level. So, yeah, if you want to get your emeralds slowly instead of playing through and just have the luxury of spending whatever you want at the vendors, then a good way to farm emeralds, but not something either of our runners are going to attempt because it's
Take some time.
yeah, it's going to take some time, and they've got the route for the vendor pretty much planned out in their heads at this point.
Yes, they do. Yam looking like he's in a little bit of danger here. We'll see if he can avoid all of these enemies and stay alive. There's... Oh, he takes a death, but that won't be too big of a time loss here.
Yeah. Once again, both players dealing with the ambush here. Imek probably a good minute or so ahead. Still able to dispatch whatever he wants with the Torment, more or less. Yom actually having turned that glaive into a Venom glaive, basically having equipped Poison Cloud to it with his enchantment points. Just trying to pick off these last few enemies. It's a little unfortunate that the enemies are getting so spread out here. The crossbowmen will typically just walk away from you so they can fire at you from range, and that does lead to them sort of wandering off and getting distracted and not really focusing on the player and letting you know where they are.
Right. That was a pretty fast ambush to supply chest that they had right there, which is good, and the runners will like to see that. We'll see if either of them can get anything super useful from the pig. Because Yam would still really love to see scatter crossbow with a firework, and as I say it, we see that Imek just got a scatter crossbow.
Mm-hmm. So he's going to be looking to that for potentially an infinite for the ambush. Takes a look at it. Does have multi-shot, which can potentially be even more damaging. Once again, gathering some more souls with the double Torment Quiver. Oh, he's got a soul healer as well, so he's actually tripling down on his soul gathering abilities at this point, using a soul knife, 2 Torment Quivers, and a soul healer to gather basically as much as he can.
That is a really interesting play. The only reason that would make sense is if he intends on dying, or if he intends on using Dynamo rather than his crossbow, his scatter crossbow, because he can just perform the infinite and take out all of the enemies nice and easily like that.
Maybe a bit of a safety strat in case he messes up the infinite, but I don't think he's dropped it that often during these runs, so yeah, he is using Dynamo to clear his path to the throne room here, though, so potentially we're going to see him using that a little bit more often, maybe switching back to the infinite and picking up a power bow and a death cap from that last chest. Probably not anything he's worried about at this stage with at least 2 boots on his person.
Right, he probably won't be equipping either of those. Maybe he'll equip the death cap for the fight, but he shouldn't have to use it as long as he's able to use his Torment Quiver correctly.
Yon with his triple boot pretty much keeping pace here. They both reached the ambush at the same time on screen, but once again, Imek with a pretty much a minute head start thanks to the timer.
Imek opting to use his Dynamo to kill these guys quickly. Now he'll switch over to the scatter with multi-shot and be able to take out these enemies, significantly faster. As you can see, Yam here is actually using... is that a mace? I've never used that weapon, so I don't know what it's called.
It is a mace, yeah. I don't know if he got a flail maybe from the chest, so it might be the unique version of the mace, but I have a feeling it is a standard mace. It has thundering and chains on it, though, which is going to deal a little bit more damage to these enemies with extra lightning bolts and basically kind of chain them together so that they can't all group up and attack him. It sort of temporarily stuns them and keeps them in a group. So, yeah, just using the enchantments he can at this point because he's got the points and doesn't really have much else in his back pocket at this stage.
Do you know if one of the unique versions of the mace has chains on it? Because I find it weird that Yam would opt for chains.
The flail might. I'm not entirely certain. He does have 3 enchantment points left from level 7, so yeah, chances are that it's a unique version that has one or the other enchantment on it.
I don't see Yam getting chains when still with 3 enchantment points. That's interesting that he's not using it to like upgrade thundering or something like that. Because higher power thunderings are really significantly better. Uh, I'm sure you've heard about B% and one of our
I
favorite
love
categories.
B%. I really enjoy the concept of B%.
So the B% has the unique version of the weapon that was released with the bees, which attacks really fast at the very beginning. And one of the enchantments that we have allowed on that is thundering. And because it attacks so fast at the very beginning, the thundering occurs a lot, and it makes it really easy to clear out these ambushes like this.
Do you want to explain what B% is for the chat?
All right, so B% for anyone in chat who isn't super familiar, it's pretty much how can you beat the game, but with bees. So you have the bee armor with Tumblebee and Swiftfoot. So you can go fast, but every time you roll it, there's also a chance at spawning a bee. You have the bee weapon, which gives you the potential to spawn a bee when you kill an enemy. And you get, I'm pretty sure, you get 3 hives. I'm not exactly sure because it's been a while since I played it. But yeah, you just get to, you get to kill the enemies with bees, and it's a really fun time. The bees do a surprising amount of damage. Are they something like in regular Minecraft that can kill you if you're not too careful?
Yeah, bees are an odd one in regular Minecraft because they can only attack you once, because like in real life, if they use their stingers, then they die shortly afterwards. But they deal a little bit of damage to the player, and then they can poison you. So you'll see swarms of bees if they attack a player, can usually deal quite a lot of damage, but I've seen people use a swarm of bees to fight the Wither before. There's like a whole bunch of people who are quite keen on bees, and personally I just use them to farm honey blocks, but yeah, that's just me. I think...
Can you be like a beekeeper? You said they use them to attack the Wither.
Yeah.
So can you like
Press on, hero.
ally with the bees like you could like with a wolf or something like that?
Not exactly, but if bees are attacked, then they will go after whatever attacks them, and they swarm and kind of have the same behavior as like natural wolves do, where a lot of the time, if one of them is attacked nearby, any other bees in the area will swarm after the thing that got attacked. So get a bunch of bees in a room with the Wither, have the Wither hit one of them, and then the rest of the bees will all go after it. And with strength potions, they can actually deal quite a lot of damage. Yeah, not always enough to bring down the Wither entirely, but they get pretty close.
I vaguely remember this off something I watched, because I watch a lot of Minecraft YouTube. Does the Wither gain health when it attacks? When it hits something?
I think it gains health passively in the background, and anytime it kills anything, it gains a bit of health as well, yeah. So the problem with bees, you have to have enough of them that the Wither isn't able to take down all of them, and that there's still some left even after explosion damage and stuff is happening. But yeah, it's perhaps even less effective than fighting with bees is in Minecraft dungeons.
The bees in Minecraft dungeons, the only thing, like, they are really strong and they don't die after one hit, but they're not the brightest mob, is one way you can put it. They don't always do exactly what you'd want them to, but...
Yeah, you have to, you know, take advantage of the pet AI in this, which is, yeah, it's all right. You know, you'll see some players using pets to their advantage, but it can be pretty difficult. I think the bees in dungeons also go away after a short amount of time. Like, if they don't do anything for 30 seconds, they despawn. So I guess that's kind of the equivalent of them dying after a couple of hits.
Right. So Imek's coming up on the stairs, and Yam's looking a little bit behind. So this one probably will be over shortly, and we'll be looking at 2-1 in Imek's favor.
Yes, with 2 Torment Quivers, it probably couldn't go wrong for him at this stage.
He's throwing that TNT out to make sure he gets some souls. He'll be, yeah, up the stairs and safe in no time, where Yam is still stuck on that unskippable ambush.
Yeah, really unfortunate one for Yom here. Obviously having a lot of speed, picking up an Evo robe as well, which if it has Swift Foot is... Nope, it doesn't, but it would have been too little too late either way. Imek queuing up his Torment Quiver to take on the Heart of Ender fight and is gonna have this over very, very quickly.
He salvaged his dynamo bow.
Ah, okay, so he's not going to be able to get the instant kill here, unfortunately, but I don't think that's going to cost him as much time as he thinks.
Probably not, but that is
a death might, though. That's a little bit rough.
He couldn't have intentionally done that. There's no reason he would have intentionally done that. Like, even if he knew that he was ahead, it is still possible that he games over here, which isn't a position. Oh, you can see him shaking his head. Yeah. No, he. This was not something that he wanted.
He's still making good use of multi-shot, standing close to Heart of Ender to hit it with as many arrows as he can and dodging those laser beams. But yeah, it looks like he is still going to finish ahead of Yom despite that setback. There we go, finishes off the boss. Makes it all the way to the end here, and yeah, a full minute ahead of Yom on the timer. So once again, safe to say we can call that in Imek's favor.
There we go. We want to let Yom finish, or he probably has enough time without the torment, especially that we can pull him back in.
I think it is probably safe to call it at this stage.
All right.
All right, we are going to call this one in favor of Imek. Imek with a time of 32:50, and it looks like Yom just not going to be able to catch up. Good effort from you both, though. Well done.
I choked. I choked so badly.
That was an interesting decision you made there to salvage your dynamo bow right before the Heart of Ender,
like,
or before the Arch Illager.
No,
Yeah.
I had the mindset from last run. I had level 9 short bow with accelerate, and I thought I have level 1 bow with dynamo, but I changed the level 9 short bow into the dynamo one.
So you had torment.
Yeah, I had torment, and I was throwing so much. I missed so many exploits.
You had 2 torment quivers.
Yeah, 2 torment quivers.
I'm sensing a pattern of torment and winner of game.
Yeah, he got.
Now you're talking about torments, huh?
He got the torment that was meant for you, I think. So yeah, unfortunate, but we're going into match 4 with 2-1 to Imek.
I don't feel like a winner after this one.
Maybe I was thinking, if you want to agree to this, Imek, maybe we could both find torments.
I would say yes.
I think that would make things very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh man, your chat loves B%. They're big fans.
Yeah, we've had the B% discussion whilst you guys have been making your way up Obsidian Pinnacle.